So how we're using words affects a lot.
Words are spells.
Words are spells, and you spell words.
And you do spell them.
And so I can observe that we have all kinds of spells being spelled upon us in this world, especially growing up in the US. And, you know, one of those words that catches me in the context of what we're speaking on here is NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming, and Hypnotherapy, how those relate to family constellations and ancestral healing. Neurolinguistic programming. For me, that word programming is a little bit tough. One, because you program a computer, not a biological human. And two, because I feel like I've already been programmed sufficiently, probably way more than I want. And I would like to not be programmed. However, NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming, uses that word. And I've always been curious about that. And I've actually avoided at times using that word. I'm curious like what your feeling is about that.
Me too. I don't necessarily like that word, but the words are really the meaning that we attach to them. And you know, there was a movement at one point within the NLP community to change it to, it's still NLP, but neurolinguistic patterning. But the programming of computers is actually a really accurate metaphor still as well. And it's really when we have this understanding actually that computers are actually modeled after human consciousness. We're trying to recreate consciousness with, I mean, we see that more and more. Now we're seeing the fruition of that with AI and whatnot. And so when you think about it that way, it's a, not only an accurate metaphor, but you know, the idea of when you say you've got a lot of, you've been programmed as much as you'd like to be. And I think what you're referring to is maybe the programs that you want to shift. And so shifting those programs is all about what NLP is about. It's the tools of how to actually get that outcome of those shifts. And of course, when you change or delete a program, you want to put one in its place. And so NLP is really good for that too. And when you put one in its place, you're fully invited to use whatever word you like that makes the most sense to you, that feels right. You could call it a new pattern. You could call it a new response. You could call it a new possibility. You could call it a new habit. But even that word sometimes, when people speak about habits, they speak about ones they don't want. And yet, habit is just a neutral word.
Yeah. I habitually breathe.
I noticed you're really good at it.
I've had some practice.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I'm no slouch myself. Now I'm just showing off.
Oh, but we got to break those habits, you know?
Some habits I'd like to keep.
Well, I love that. And also the reframe of like neurolinguistic possibilities, right? And what I hear in what you're saying is this dynamic of being able to take the programs that maybe we were born into, the programs that came through our childhood, through our schooling, that we often, I observe in myself, that we've taken on unconsciously or subconsciously or without really necessarily having a conscious agreement, but that it was part of the language that we grew up speaking or a part of the culture that we grew up in. And to take those subconscious and unconscious patterns and programs and bring them into a state where we can consciously choose, as you're saying, whether or not we maybe want that program. And if we don't want that program, what do we want instead? And I love the empowerment piece. that brings into it. There's also a lot of stigma, depending on who you ask, around NLP, of the ways that NLP, and it's very true that it's used in these marketing realms to get people to buy stuff and to convince people that they need things they don't need. And yet, I'm curious how we can use those tools like the word habit that are neutral and use them for good. Yeah, what's your perspective on that?
Well, yeah, it's true. A great percentage, I don't know how many of people, when I ask them NLP, what do you think of NLP? They say, well, I heard it was manipulative. And so to be clear, NLP is a really vast, broad field of tools and techniques. And, it is true that some people have learned these tools and techniques and then marketed just one small facet of NLP for the purpose of some kind of appealing to the ego, some kind of manipulation, whether it's pickup artistry or salesmanship or whatever it is. And of course, if you're a marketing company, you're not going to take the most powerful tools and techniques of communication and plug that into your marketing. Of course you are. But the thing is that that's even more reason to learn these tools and techniques. And then so you're aware of and have more choice about what's coming into your consciousness and how you can really choose and sort through those different communications in a way that you choose. And so it actually makes it even more of a reason to become more aware of the different levels and styles of communication and really have a deeper, richer understanding of what is conscious and what is unconscious. Because that's the other thing, people speak about that in a way like, oh, that's unconscious, you're not being conscious, you're not being aware. And what is unconscious also refers to, say, if you talk about a habit or what is automatic. There's a lot of things you want to keep that way, like walking, for example.
And your heartbeat.
That too. And breathing.
Yeah.
So walking is an automatic thing that you learned how to do, took you a while, then you learned how to do it, and then you learned how to do it really well. Now you don't have to think about it. It's automatic. And so are many of the programs that we have running are ones you want to keep just as they are. Like, you know how to drive. When you were first learning how to drive, there were so many different things, and yet now you can, do all kinds of things while you drive and still drive well. I mean, hopefully, most of you, but most of us
Can't speak for everybody.
Can't speak for everybody. But the idea is that it becomes an unconscious, automatic program that you spent a lot of time and energy getting that way. And so and then there's even some programs that were they were quite useful at one point in our life. And a lot of those we developed when we were little kids, like how to defend ourselves, or how we were with our big brother or sister, or and sometimes those programs come out when we're in an unresourceful state, and it's, wait, I'm responding to the same program that I installed when I was, and we're using the word program on purpose here, when I was 4 years old, and now that just came out. It might be time to update. So we all have, if you really take the time for introspection, we all have so many programs or automatic responses that we would like to update. And that's what's so brilliant about NLP, is it's the tools and techniques that actually help you get there. How would you like to update those? And that's what NLP is.
And I love the way that, and you just touched on it there, how that then weaves into our family dynamics and the ways that we have learned to survive or find safety or find love or connection or belonging or whatever it is. And just as you said, oftentimes I've observed those means of getting that positive intention of safety rooted in our childhood, wow, really worked well enough to keep the program at the time. And now here I am, 50 years old or whatever, running the same program as you spoke to. And perhaps it's not really functioning as well as it did at age 7 because it comes with other ramifications or side effects. What does it look like to take that program and update it and to find something that works better now, given the ecology of our present day life? I've heard you speak a lot about bringing into this space what's relevant to us now. What shifts or behaviors or beliefs or patterns or programs are ready to be looked at now. Not past or future per se, but what's relevant to us now. And that's something I really love about this, rather than just opening Pandora's box and saying, okay, well, let me just uproot all my programming, focusing on like what's here now, what's relevant to my life now. I really love that.
Yeah, one at a time.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like NLP is really good at shifting programs. So what is or a behavior, for example, or a habit. And then so that is working on the behavioral level. Then NLP, there's the whole neurological levels, and we go into more of that in an NLP training, but just to give like a basic synopsis, there are different levels in which you would work on something. So there's the behavioral level, I want to shift that behavior. And then there's your capabilities, and then there's like the identity level. Well, who I am as a person. Does this habit or this behavior fit in with who I am as a person? And do I want to shift and change that? And when you shift and change that, then the behavior changes automatically when you go to the higher level. I think Einstein said something about that. Working on a problem on a different level is the way to really find the solution. And so when we look at who we are as a person, it has everything to do with our family system. And that's what we're kind of unwinding in a family constellation is, and see, this is how like NLP and family constellations work together so well, is that so who I am as a person has everything to do with it. There's the level of belief in there too. And then so speak of like, say, our relationship to money, for example. My dad only made a certain amount of money, and so that's part of my acceptance level, my mom would call it, where if I think about making a certain amount of money that's over this level, then it's like it doesn't compute. There's like a ceiling. And who I am as a person is also who you are in your family of origin. And for a lot of people, that's unconscious. They go, no, none of that matters, but it does. Trust me, it does matter, because that's what we're looking at, what's unconscious. Like, there's an unconscious belief, I belong to this family and we only made this much money. And so how could I make more and still belong? Or there's all these fears and limiting beliefs around, like, well, what if I did make more? And then there's just, you could just name, like, if you ask someone, start thinking about what your negative beliefs or limiting beliefs about money are. And you go, well, I don't really have any. You're like, well, yeah, well, just start writing a list. And before you know it, you could have a whole page full if you really, like, dig into it. So that's an idea of, like, hey, what do I want to shift? Do I want to shift my relationship with money? And do I want to shift who I am in relation to money? And that goes for intimate relationships. It goes for your health and well-being. It goes for whatever limiting beliefs that you want to shift. And there's all these different levels on which you can shift them. And both NLP and family constellations works on this deeper and deeper level of how the whole system works together. It has everything to do with your identity.
Yeah, and I can see, things as simple as I grew up as an only child, and then I see the energetic dynamic of those who were maybe the eldest child or the youngest child. There's a sort of identity that's formed around that role played in the family system, right? Or like you were saying, my relationship with money, and I can observe this in my own life, has had a lot to do with the modeling or understanding that I had of that ceiling that existed in my family of origin. So it's fascinating to see how our programming, again, shapes us and shapes the ways that we show up in the present. And what an awesome thing that we have these tools and techniques to be able to make meaningful shifts. So I'm curious, how does NLP and family constellations, how do those begin to merge? I understand constellations as a bit more divinatory, and perhaps even exploratory in its core. And I know that NLP is quite outcome based. So I'm curious, how do you see the weaving of those elements?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that, and there are so many answers to that. And what you just talked about was like the masculine and the feminine, because the feminine is very divination. Like that is feminine in nature. To receive divine information, that is feminine. The outcome-based is very masculine. So where do those two meet? And where is that perfect harmony and balance between those two? And so as far as the one aspect of how NLP supports family constellations as a foundation is asking for intention. And when we ask for intention, what is it that, just like when you said, like, I don't want to just open up the whole can of worms, I want to focus on the one thing at a time, and then we look at the family system. So what is it that you would like to shift is invited, and then I would set my intention to help you with that, and then that creates an agreement field. And when we have the agreement field, now we can look at the family system together and find where the essential insight through divination to shift is, and make that shift so that you can have that reprogram, if you will, within the system that then helps you be more or have more of what really brings you joy in your life. And so yeah, that agreement field is also really negates the whole idea of manipulative, and brings it more to like, what can we? It's us doing it together, and so it's a whole different. It's like, throw manipulative away, and let's come to co-creation. So there's the NLP co-creation, and there's the foundation that holds space for the divination and the information that was unconscious that comes through from the family system to help you not only be aware of what's been in the shadows or unconscious or what those limits are, but then you have an opportunity to bring the outcome into that greater system and make those shifts that support you. So that's just one way that the NLP ideology and the family constellations work together.
And I love what you said there about intention, creating that space where it's not manipulation but co-creation. And it brings my mind to some of the stories that I've heard around hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and people's very real and reasonable hesitations and concerns around this term hypnosis and this modality of hypnotherapy. I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'm a little bit hesitant towards that because I don't want to be manipulated, or I don't want to lose some form of control or consent, especially. And what I'm hearing and what you're saying is that when there's intention placed, and when my intention or your intention as a facilitator is spoken to be of support to another person's highest good and to support their intention, there is no space in that agreement field for manipulation. And so I'm curious then, within that space, because what we're really touching on here is how can we take things that could be manipulative and actually use them in a safe way, actually use them for another person's and our own highest good. How did those all come together?
Well, another way that we shift this idea of manipulation is something really simple. Like if I say, hey, I have this problem, say, you know how if someone asks for directions, it's just we all want to really help them. Like, hey, I want to help. I want to offer you directions to help you get to where you want to go. And oftentimes if someone says, hey, I have a problem with blah, 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 and someone will offer you advice immediately. And even if you were like, oh, I wasn't really in the space for some advice, that's our human nature because of our positive intention that we want to help. And it's wonderful. And sometimes just offering advice is absolutely, necessary and it's appropriate. But it becomes the fallback, if you will, or it becomes the automatic response, like, oh, well, here's how I shifted this, and here's what you ought to do. And that in itself is like manipulation light, or like diet manipulation, 1-calorie manipulation. And so the other way in how hypnosis comes into play is hypnosis is simply a deep state of focus, or a deep state of receptivity, or it's very feminine in nature. Just like meditation, you could cross those two words over, come into a deep state of stillness. And in that state, it's much more likely for you to receive from your higher self what the answer is. And so when we're working with hypnosis and NLP, we're not trying to give someone the answer. We're trying to help them receive the answer from within, and then help them to get into alignment with that. And so that is how hypnosis or hypnotherapy is used in this really ecological context that is the fundamental basis of what NLP is, or at least how it's taught in this school, NLP Hawaii, it's in the within the context of healing as a healing tool.
Yeah, it makes me think of one of the presuppositions of NLP, one of the kind of foundational principles, if you will, that everyone has the resources already that they need for whatever shift is available. And what I hear you saying is, as a facilitator, we're helping a person elicit those resources and those understandings from within themselves, rather than trying to give them things. And a metaphor that has come to mind about that is, and I see this in a lot of healing spaces, actually, where a lot of people try to fill another's cup from their own cup. And I feel that, wow, what a blessing it is to walk somebody to the spring, to walk together to the spring, so that perhaps both of us can fill our cups. And I'm not taking on the responsibility of filling another's cup from my own resources, which will inevitably be laden with some form of manipulation or just something that doesn't really support their highest truth. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that space in here.
Yeah, so I'm really excited, and part of the purpose of doing this little conversation is to help clear out any of the myths about NLP, give you a deeper understanding of what NLP is really about and family constellations. And you and I are offering a little tasty tidbits, if you will, of NLP, and an opportunity to come and check out some of how these techniques and processes work for you. So bring your healing intention or whatever you'd like to shift and come see us. It's at the Grateful Dojo. An hour before, so from 4:30 to 5:30, both Zeff and I and Linseed Faye will be offering private mini sessions so you can get a sample of how these techniques work for you. And also an hour after, so it's at 5:30 to 8:30 will be our group session, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then an hour after will also be available for private mini sessions, if you will.
Yeah, and that's on Tuesday, October 15th, 14th.
Something like that.
Something like that.
This coming Tuesday. It's coming up.
If you're seeing this video, it's this coming Tuesday. And that is going to lead us, or be kind of a tasty tidbit for the upcoming trainings that you're leading, and Neurolinguistic Hypnotherapy practitioner training, and then Ancestral Healing Family Constellations facilitator training.
Yeah, so NLP Hawaii, right here on the island of Kauai. This is every year we do an NLP training. The training coming up is more of it's a certification to become an NLP practitioner, and that is a prerequisite to become a hypnotherapist. So that's half your hours right there. There's a separate training that'll be coming up in February. It might change to March, but it's coming up in February for now. And that will be your opportunity to become a certified hypnotherapist, a CHT. And but the NLP training that's coming up is also the prerequisite to become a family constellations facilitator. And that facilitation training is coming up in November. So either way you want to go, the NLP training, which will have some hypnotherapy in it as well, is a prerequisite, or the basic foundation that you can use to go either way. It's also a fundamental foundation for you can plug those tools and techniques into any other healing modality you offer. Just like the agreement field, I think that most healing modalities could utilize more of that in some way. It's really helpful. And there's so much more, especially even like learning the hypnotic language pattern is an opportunity to utilize those awarenesses for conscious language. And conscious language is so, all of these techniques and tools and awarenesses and language is what I want to share with the world. I think it will help every human to communicate better and to have richer relationships. And so it just helps on every level. It's an opportunity to have your own self-transformation, 5 solid days of practicing. You need to come up with lots of stuff you'd like to shift, so you practice those tools and techniques. And it's also, obviously this opportunity to become a practitioner so that you have this treasure trove of tools and techniques to offer healing for others. Yeah, so that's October 20th through the 24th, coming up real soon.
Yeah, and then the constellations after that comes up November 4th to the 10th. And, something I hear in that is how important it is to have multiple levels of training so that we are not superimposing our stuff onto others, so that we, as people who don't want to be manipulated, also don't become the ones manipulating others, consciously or unconsciously. And so I really appreciate the steps and the integration and the practice hours and all of these things that really help us refine our approach, so that we, whether I'm holding space for myself or another, that I can get out of the way.
Wow, I'm so glad you said that, because that's really what the the thing that is repeated over and over again, and that we really drive home, is holding that space of helping someone find their own answer rather than, it's basically teaching us and relearning how to be as unmanipulative as possible to help the person find that answer from within. And so it's really the opposite of what people say about NLP. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and thanks for all the space that you hold and the integrity that I feel from you in these spaces, having attended multiple trainings and seeing how it has impacted others and the ripple effects there. So, it's also quite rare, I find, to be able to learn from people who aren't attempting to manipulate or aren't attempting to, have their own self-interest, first and foremost. So thanks for holding that light and modeling to us how to hold that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah. Any final words in closing about NLP, hypnotherapy, ancestral healing, where your heart is?
The invitation is just to come and check it out, because if you're one of those folks that says, well, I don't have anything to work on, then you definitely need to come. Then that means you should get over there. If you think that, then that's your cue.
So what do you want to work on today? The fact that I don't have anything to work on.
Yeah, let's...
Yeah. And that's just it. And that's something that I love about what I've gained from your approach, is that it's not about just opening Pandora's box, but really clarifying what is it that's in highest service to my highest good here and now. The fact that it's kind of a paradox, but the fact that we at any moment have 80 million things that we could work on. Any tree could be pruned and shaped in just such a way. And what would it be that's most in service to my highest good here and now? And just that clarity is really beautiful. And I see how NLP really gets us into that spot, into that sweet spot, to serve the highest good. And I love that. That's why it's so delicious to be in these spaces. Yeah, thank you.
It's good to hear you talk about it. Yeah, well put. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zeff.
Yeah, thanks.
Aloha, fam. See you Tuesday.